Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Rise Up Mama podcast. I'm so happy and grateful that I'm having this opportunity to speak to this wonderful woman. We tried to do this earlier on in the year, but it just didn't happen. So here we are. The universe definitely lined things up. So it did work out. Everything was fine. And she's here. So I'm going to introduce you to a wonderful woman, Elke, who's going to be my guest speaker this month. But before I do, let me just introduce myself in case you're not familiar with who I am. I'm Vanessa of Lifestyle Coaching for Mums, and I educate mums of all ages about lots of different things. So we're talking about emotional well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being, and even spiritual things. But tonight's conversation is definitely more along the physical line because I have the wonderful Elke Hausler with me, and she's the natural painkiller. That's who she is. So we're talking about pain relief therapy. Elke, it's fantastic to have you with me. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me and for rescheduling. It was all a bit of a mess, but we got there in the end, so thank you.
As I said in the introduction, I do believe in divine timing, and everything worked out perfectly, and I'm just so glad that we've got this opportunity to pick up where we would have been earlier on this year. So yes, you're going to be the guest contributor at this month's Health and Wellbeing Café, which is next Thursday, the 28th of July. And, I'm looking forward to this one. Number of reasons for what you do. And obviously you'll tell me a little bit more about that. And we've got some questions where I'm hoping to find out a bit more about you, and the audience will find out more about you. But also from my own perspective, you've said it's going to be a very practical session. You said that we need to have 2 tennis balls. Hello.
If you have some, otherwise we'll find other means,
Exactly.
Flexible.
Exactly. So I'm really looking forward to the session. But, before we talk about that, which we will do a little bit later, I want to know a bit more about you, Elke. Obviously, we've met each other within the business networking community. We've been contacting each other now for about a year, isn't it? We've had what they describe as one-to-one chats, so we've got to know each other. And we did plan for you to be a contributor some time back. But in these conversations that we have, they're very short, so we don't necessarily get to find out. I know the basics of who you are. But, one of the things I'm really interested in, just to start off our conversation tonight, is about who's influenced you. I know you've achieved quite a lot in your life. And is there 3 key people that are standing out that have really made a positive impact on your life, please?
Possibly one of my cousins who lives in Brazil, but I had a car accident. She was more injured than I was, and obviously, the recovery story and so on. So then a few years ago, one of our fellow networkers, Tim Spencer, I don't know if you ever met him. I'm not sure if he's still in that network, but I met him years and years ago. He's a web designer, and then he learned a few therapies on the side. And he was inspiring me. I saw his change, his transformation from literally one week to the other. You meet at these meetings every other week. And so he was a different man. So I said, man, what did you do? You're different. He was so much more,
alive
and everything. So I said, I want a bit of that. What is it? So he told me about this fire walking instructor course he did. And so I said, I want to know more, So and off I went. I did go on the same course. And then obviously I met Steve Gonsalves, who led the course. and a few other people, and Tim was helping on this workshop as well. So we got to talk more, and obviously I made my own experiences, but the growth I had from that in a completely different way than he did, Tim did, it really helped me grow. And so I realized that I had an issue with trust, so so that was a really interesting, pivotal point in my life. And then a third person, probably Dr. David Baselli, who designed tension and trauma releasing exercises. It's a form of self-care. It's a self-care technique where you learn how to shake your body free from tension, stress, or trauma. And shaking sounds, wild, but it can be just like subtle energies, like tingling, or it doesn't have to be wild shaking. But if you think of dogs, they shake themselves free, from stress and tension when there's a fireworks, or and we humans have the same ability. So learning that and meeting David, I haven't met David in person, but obviously on lots of online, workshops and online, I really admire him, for his life's work. He's now retired, but it's an amazing self-care tool that he developed, just to get the tremors back online, get in contact with your own body. So that is definitely a big influence in my life, and that was just over the last couple of years. So that's the most recent person.
Wow, that's fantastic. I know that when we originally met in the networking session, you did, I don't think you were giving us a talk, but I think you did a talk where you was explaining that technique, and it sounded really interesting to me then. So before I move on, I've given the title of what, you describe yourself, the natural painkiller, but what actually is that, Elke?
What is that? That's a good question. I started out as I wasn't always a massage or body worker, massage therapist or body worker. I initially started as a PA, long story. Anyway, when I arrived in this country, I just did a few taster sessions, and with taster sessions in aromatherapy and reflexology and Indian head massage, so you're not allowed to touch any people professionally, but I could do my friends, my neighbors, and so on. And one of my neighbors said, "You've got the hands for this, you should look into this." And I would have never even thought of that idea, but I loved doing this work. And so I enrolled then in the anatomy and physiology courses and everything I needed to qualify properly. And the rest is history, as they say. And so I opened a little cabinet. We had it purpose built in the back garden. And then I added more and more techniques to it. I started to attract more people with back pain and neck pain and whatnot. So my husband said, "Why don't you do sports massage?" That was the next qualification I got. And then I just built on that. And these days I do a lot more things that look at the whole body, body, mind, and soul. You can't really separate it. So I still do body work. But I added other techniques to it. And because I use a lot of techniques that most people haven't heard the names of, I call myself the natural painkiller, because I use natural techniques, that are safe, effective, powerful, drug-free. I'm a natural girl. And so that's what I do, I mix and match whatever the client needs. And with the pandemic, I obviously had to kind of rethink how I work, because up until 2020, I was purely a hands-on or in-the-room therapist. And then I thought, how else could I help? So the natural painkiller, really, I hope that it brings it across. I help people in a natural way. getting over chronic pain, stress, tension, or trauma. And that's it in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. Oh, what have I done here? Where's my lighting gone? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all good. No, well, that is so fascinating. I'll weave in a little bit of my own pain story as we have this conversation. But before we really dive deep on the industry, the health and wellbeing industry, you've touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to find out, what were you doing before you became the natural painkiller? What was your career like, or what did life look like for you before you stepped into this world?
In school, I was always relatively good at languages. And when you study languages, you can become an interpreter or, a teacher, but I didn't want to do that, would want to go in that direction. So I became a trilingual secretary, or PA, you call them nowadays. And these days you even have VAs. But, I go back a long while, I'm nearly 60. So, so I started to work in the corporate world, and I enjoyed that. And I moved up the ladder, and was promoted with my bosses, or, I was lucky to have a good career there. And then I had a car accident, which then started my journey to look for natural therapies. But I stuck with that profession, just changed companies. And so I worked for a variety of companies before I got married. And with pretty much the day before the wedding, my husband was promoted to work in France. So we knew we'd move soon. And so we did. A few months later, we moved to Paris, near Paris. And we started a family where I decided I was going to look for a job, but then we became pregnant. And obviously we decided that I'd look after the kids. We live abroad. I wanted them bilingual. And so I decided to have, a few years out. And then in 2001, we moved to this country. And again, I didn't want to go back. I wanted to work again, but I didn't want to, when you have a family, you have different priorities. And the jobs I had before were very interesting. And help launching products and doing all sorts of stuff, really interesting stuff. But I didn't want to commit to those hours. I wanted to be more flexible. And that's when the natural painkiller came to life. So that's my story in a way. And because I had pain myself, I mentioned the car accident earlier, where I had my back broken and I have a 10 centimeter scar here. So that obviously took some while to heal. And then I fell down the stairs being pregnant and broke my coccyx. It's still deformed to this day. So that was very painful. And then I was diagnosed with a prolapse in the back. So I had my fair share of pain myself, but each time I was looking for natural ways to get over that pain, and I found them. So obviously these days I just love to share my knowledge and help other people overcome their aches and pains.
Wow. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that you went through such trauma. I didn't know that. Particularly, these are very serious injuries that you went through at the time. I'm really pleased to hear that you found solutions for your own pain. That's fantastic. Just for the sake of the audience, which country are you from, Elke? Because you said that you came to England and you did a bit of traveling with your husband, but where were you born?
I was born in Germany, and more than half my life I lived abroad now.
Wow. Gosh, that's fantastic. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that part of your story. Like I said, I didn't know about your own pain story, and it does make a difference when you're providing a service based on life experience and actual knowledge. It's not just a textbook then, is it? It's things that have been tried and tested. So that's incredible. All right, so sticking with your career as a pain relief therapist, please could you tell us about the most important lesson that you've learned, or lessons that you've learned throughout your career doing this work, please?
I guess that that would be, you can't see, you have to look at the whole body, mind and soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's never just the one, but one will be out of, when one is out of sync, it involves the others somehow as well. So you need to look at the whole person, whole.
I definitely resonate with that myself, Elke, because I started my journey describing myself as a wellness coach, looking at nutrition and nutritional solutions. But then, as you said, I got part way in my journey and I was like, no, this is just about their body, but actually their mindset needs to be, you need to be in the right frame of mind if you're actually going to change your lifestyle. And then in terms of my spiritual education, that's always been something that I believed in myself, but I was kind of afraid to talk about it. But as I've become more confident as a coach, I definitely agree with where you're coming from, because, the breakthroughs that I'm providing for the mums and women, I do have some single women in my community, but for the women that I work with, it's definitely, we can be talking about all three aspects of who they are, not just looking at one thing. So I love to hear that, what you said there.
Yeah, all right. I had my own experience in that way as well. One of my children didn't cope well with our move from France to England. And so he spiraled down, psychologically, and so mental health was not the best. And I spiraled down with it. But again, we found something that helped. So pain, chronic pain definitely involves some kind of emotional or psychological issues too. And you have to start somewhere. It doesn't mean that you have to work on all the areas at the same time, whatever, but do start somewhere,
No, I love that, because again, this year, I've only just come to the realization when I was asked the question, what is my why? And I think my broad answer was very much, what you're probably thinking the other listener wants to hear. But when I was probed, I realized that my why is to support mums to protect their mental well-being. Why? Because of my own journey, not my mental health, but my mother's mental health, which was severely disrupted after her childbirth for myself, which then became very serious. It became a very serious mental health condition and had consequences for my childhood. So it's incredible, like you say, the emotional and the mental well-being. If you're going through pain, you're not feeling good. I mean, even myself, I told you before, I'd weave in my own pain conversation into our chat this evening, and I've realized that I am suffering from pain. It seems to be like generally all over, feel it definitely in the morning, and it's kind of like putting me off on things that I was naturally doing. And I kind of feel my age. I will say, many people say, you don't look your age, and I go, oh, thank you very much. But I feel my age, Elke. I'm really starting to feel, your description. I've read your marketing messages and you talk about the aches and the pains, and I was like, oh, I really relate to that, because I've got these aches and pains. And I was doing a 7-minute workout in the rising, so when I'd get up, I'd do this quick 7, and I've noticed that actually I'm out of sync. So you use the word sync, I would describe it as out of alignment. I'm out of alignment with doing that. And then I was like, what's putting me off? And I was like, I'm aching. I'm so, I've got all this pain in the morning. So it's not good.
It before it.
Sorry?
What do you do against it or to get out of it?
Well, one of the things that I know has to shift in my lifestyle is being sedentary. It has changed because I've reduced my hours in the corporate world. I've taken up Zumbini, as you know, I talk about. I still keep up with my activities. But one thing I know that I need is that constant movement. If I don't, the stiffness just seems to seep in. So to be more active is definitely something that I look at. So back to you, I'm interested in what is a common myth about your job or your field of expertise, Elke? So, you know, like for your clients that may not be familiar with what you do, what do you hear a lot where you kind of have to correct people on?
I always call it, you know, the issues are in the tissues, and yes, there may be some degeneration, you know, osteoarthritis or whatever that can give you the pain, but it's not the main cause. Okay, again, we're coming back to, we need to look at the bigger picture. So it's the same thing, you know, it affects the bio, psycho, and social aspects of your life.
Wow. So do you find yourself almost like going a little bit deeper in the conversation when you're talking to people, or how do you manage that type of scenario?
I obviously hear all the story, you know, they had the accident or this, that, and the other, you know, and so it's not about the story, it's about how resilient you are, you know, and depending on your resilience or the tools that you have, you know, how well you can get out of as well.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, I definitely look at body, mind, and soul, you know, and we will start somewhere.
Yeah, start somewhere. And I mean, in terms of people coming to you and working with you, what is the kind of average length that a client would be working with you to really get the benefits of what you provide?
It depends, but usually between 3 to 6 sessions. They should definitely, I'd say the majority of people, 95% of people will feel much better after the first session.
That's good. That's fantastic.
And yeah, I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it, but it's different from most things that are out there.
Yes, definitely. Well, the next question, I think you may have touched upon it in terms of who's influenced you, but there may be someone else. But I'm really interested to find out about the most important professional mentor that has been part of your journey, leading you to who you are as a therapist, please.
That's a tricky one. Professional mentor. Definitely lately it would be Dr. David Baselli again, even if I haven't worked with him personally, all his work, and you know, is really inspiring me. Most important professional mentor. I'll struggle with this one.
Have you worked with a lot of mentors during your business career?
I have had coaches, business coaches, life coaches, but I think it's probably more that I read a lot of different self-development books, or you know, snippets here, snippets there. I always have a pile of books next to my bed, and you know, I can't say I'm reading this book. I'm into 10, and one night I pick this one, another one I might pick that one. So it's really tricky.
Well, I mean, for me, I always refer back to Jim Rowan.
Mm-hmm.
I never had an opportunity to meet Jim Rowan. He's passed away now, so I'm not going to meet him. But I know that he's been the most influential professional mentor in my life. I've studied his work, just his quotes and the things that the questions he has asked from that kind of professional platform have literally stayed with me over the last 13 years. His work has definitely been a turning point in my life. So, as you said, the doctor that you are inspired by, you may not have had a chance to meet him, but, you know, if there's something about his work that, you know, you found really incredible, and maybe just about him as a person, I feel that if he's had an impact on you, then that's a really positive thing. What is it about him in particular that you admire?
Well, he's been through trauma himself, working in war-torn conflict countries, and obviously realized that, you know, shaking is a natural thing that can help us all to digest the trauma or the stress. And then he found a way to teach it so that we can bring it back online. And I find this is incredible, you know, because we kind of suppressed it, learned to suppress it through whatever upbringing, culture, religion, you know, whatever the reason, your own traumas and so on. So it is just good to have that technique to bring it back to life, and it definitely improves your resilience and, you know, sleep. You feel more relaxed. It's an amazing technique, and to come up with that is just, yeah, you know, helping people overcome trauma. And well, obviously with COVID, you know, we've all been traumatized more or less.
Yeah,
you know?
with some respect, definitely. That's fantastic.
So I found this work really, you know, and it is his life's work.
Yeah.
You know, I found this most inspiring, you know, definitely.
Well, I touched upon the fact that my morning routine has been interrupted. We had, some changes in the house, relatives from abroad. And there's certain things that you do in the morning that you can't always do. I know it's only my 7-minute workout, but when somebody else is in the house, it's not always, you know. Anyway, I'm interested in your morning routine, Elke. Do you have a morning routine at all?
I don't really have a set routine, but I do think exercise is important, and usually I try to get it out of the way first thing. I'm a runner, so running has always been my release valve in a way, yeah. So it keeps my head clear, or, you know, I just, yeah, I feel better for it. You know all about them, and the feel-good hormones and so on. So that's what I like doing, you know, first thing in the morning. Go for a run, or you can see the orange sticks in the background. These are stick mobility sticks. They bend, and, you know, so you can strengthen, stretch, do rehab. So I love them. Then I touched on the shaking. Obviously, I need to practice what I preach. That's another really great tool, but I often use that more at the end of the day. But yeah, so morning routine. I'm an early bird, definitely, and yeah, sometimes I start with my gratitude.
Oh, that's perfect.
Journal, you know, not I'm trying to do it, you know, consistently. But.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Great stuff. Okay, so now we want to kind of go back a little bit, know a bit about your life and where you've come from, you've traveled, but I'm interested in the younger version of you. What advice would you give to the 18-year-old Elke about life, career? What would you tell her if you could go back?
Definitely do what you want to do, and not just follow, what your parents maybe suggest or whatever. Yeah, try and find what makes you happy, what you want to do. And a very big one would be self-care. I didn't always do that first thing, I was rather putting myself last, 3 kids, living abroad, so, you're kind of, you're running around like a headless chicken. And so I often put myself last, and that's obviously changed over the years, and I'm grateful for it, but I should have definitely started that at a younger age. And all I can say is, put your own oxygen mask on
first. Yeah. I mean, what advice would you give to a younger mum who's maybe got the 3 children and saying, well, how on earth am I supposed to do that? Is there something practical that you could share to kind of make that a reality for a woman who may be finding it difficult to focus on her own self-care?
Yeah, you can do all sorts of things. You could start the day or do it any time in the day. If you're breathing exercise, that really doesn't take long. If you come next week, I might even share a few tricks there, things. But so you can work with tennis balls, or I have, these are called yoga tune-up balls, but you can start with a tennis ball. So it's a cheap investment, but rolling on a ball and releasing some tissues that way can really let go of quite a bit of tension. Wow. And you feel more relaxed after it as well. So, it helps posture, and when you have better posture, you can breathe better and whatnot. So definitely, it doesn't have to be long, 5-10 minutes on the ball, so I wish I had known all these things.
Well, this is the thing, Elke. I mean, I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I don't have a television. Okay, so my evening isn't about television viewing because I don't have one. But for many parents who feel like I've done what I need to do during the day for my family, they will turn to things like TV viewing, for example, or maybe just nattering away on their phone to their friends, or scrolling on their phone, looking at social media. But in their head, they kind of tell themselves, I don't have time to look after myself. This self-care stuff that I hear others talk about, I don't have time. But what you're saying, 5-10 minutes, I mean, what could somebody, for example, who does like to watch that evening television program, is there something practical that you could share to say, well, even if you're watching television, you could do this?
Yeah, of course. You can roll on these balls while you're sitting on a proper chair, or while you maybe sit in front of the telly, on the carpet rather than on the settee, or
So there's always a way.
There's always a way, yes.
Brilliant.
In general, I find it a big danger, what all these little, these gadgets that people are using. I will admit, I try to really not do much on, and not much on Facebook or anything. So it is not good for your posture, and then you must undo it again.
And one thing I love about you, Elke, because we haven't met each other face to face yet, I've always seen you online, and you always stand up.
Yeah, I'm standing at the minute.
I've never seen you sitting down. I mean, I've tried people, maybe not on my evening podcast, but on some of my the morning, it's called Grand Rising with Vanessa, if you haven't watched it yet. But on those shows, I was standing up, and I felt much better because obviously you're more open, your diaphragm, and you can just kind of like, I don't know, it's better for your posture, like you said. So I'm getting out of that habit, so I need to get back into that.
Yeah, you can even multitask. I mean, as I said, I'm standing here at a sit-stand desk, and often I'm halfway through the meeting, I might lower it down and sit for a bit, but the majority of the time I will be standing. And I can show you, just under my desk, I'm hiding this beauty.
What's that?
And what I do with that is, I would not have shoes on there. Let's see if you can see that. Okay, we're on the mat. So while I'm talking to people on the screen there, whatever, I can do my calf stretches already. Yeah. So
I've never seen or heard of one of these things. What's this called then, Elke?
You may know foam rollers.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can obviously roll on all sorts of areas. I recommend the slower the better. But this is only half of it, okay? And it's great for calf stretches. And when we're sitting a lot, the calves will be shortened or, tighter. And so it's important that you keep them loose. I'm obviously a runner, so this is one of the stretches I have to do to keep fit and healthy. But I can do that while I'm talking to you.
Brilliant. Multitasking. I absolutely love it. A woman of many talents. I knew this about you. So Elke, we've kind of touched on the past a little bit. I don't know if you are doing any writing, if you're an active writer, but I do have a question. You said you like to read, but I have a question about you as an author. If you had an opportunity to write a book, what would that be on? What would you share in the world, please?
So I have not written a book yet. I think it would be practical tips for self-care. What can you do in the comfort of your own home or in your own time that doesn't cost the earth? Yeah. It starts with breathing. If you don't breathe well, the brain is not oxygenated the same way, and your posture will be not the same. And there's so many benefits from just breathing well. And then all this postural stuff. I'm
kind of like fixing my posture as I'm speaking to you. Like, no, I need to fix up.
I think I would definitely do some self-care, content.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Brilliant. It's what people need to hear as well.
It needs to be practical, and 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I need to make an hour for yoga class. I love yoga, don't get me wrong. I do it as and when I can, either on my own mat or I join a class. Yeah, but I think self-care, it's good to have something that you can throw in here and there, and then you can still have your 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever, sessions, whatever your passion is.
That's great. Yeah. So I know you said that you have a lot of books at the bedside cabinet, but in terms of I describe it as personal development, and you said that you've worked on your own personal development for many years. Is there a particular book that you'd be able to recommend to the audience at all, please?
There is. This is the third band of a series called, hang on, it'll come back to me, Listen to Your Body. There's the first band and the second band. I was given this book by a friend when I was a little bit down, and it was in French, so we lived in France at the time. So I read the first one and the second one, and then I had the third band. I found this in English or in other languages as well. So this is the one that is my Bible. And it's called Your Body's Telling You, Love Yourself. And it says it's the most complete book on metaphysical causes of illnesses and diseases. In general, I break down disease as dis-ease. You're not easy about something. Find what it is, treat it with whatever you have available. Okay, I would use tapping for it, but and so this book is broken down into whatever it is people may suffer from. Dyslexia, there's a physical block, there's emotional block, and a mental block, and it's all broken down. And it's obviously for a lot of other things. I came across this book when I used to get pretty chronic throat infections.
Mm.
And, you know, you would go to the doctors and they couldn't find anything, but it was sore, it was, you know, and I thought, what is it, you know? And I obviously found the answers in this book. And so I then started every time the kids had a little something, or, you know, a friend, or, you know, I would read up in my Bible.
Mm.
And it's not that it has to be 100% true, but, you know, often 80% of what they say about the sections, the physical, the emotional, or the mental blocks is spot on. And I'm thinking, oh wow, yeah, that's me, yeah. And then
sounds like astrology.
And then I can work on it with my self-care tools.
Yeah, I love that.
This is my go-to book.
Oh wow! Well, I think I will be.
By Lise Bourbeau.
Say the name again. Sorry.
Lise Bourbeau. I think she's Canadian. She is Canadian. Yes. So, and I've had this book for about 30 years now.
Wow. So you said it was like the part 3. So part 1 and part 2, are they worth investing in?
Listen to Your Body is the first band. I know that exists in English. And then in French, there's a second band. I'm not sure. I have never really looked into it, because if I wanted to read it again, I've got it in French in the library.
Right. Okay.
But obviously I wanted to own my English version so that I can, you know, go to it when I need to in this country, you know. And
yeah, no, it sounds incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I am very intrigued and thinking my reading list it keeps growing, but I need to get through the books I'm reading. But thank you for that. I love that one. All right, Elke, it's been such a fascinating conversation. I'm so glad we've done this, you know, to get to know each other better, find out more about you. You've shared so many tips in this conversation. You could say I'm giving you the happiness habits, but I always like to find out if there is a happiness habit that the guest contributor could share with us. What would that be? What do you think we should really focus on, Elke, please?
So one I'm still working on myself is love yourself, you know. And that can obviously be tricky, but I think it's a work in progress.
What is the best way that best way or method that you really consistently do to say, no, this is my expression of love to myself? What would that be?
Definitely the shaking I mentioned. So it's easy. You can do it in bed, and sitting and standing, and, you know, lying on a yoga mat, whatever, and you just shake. And after that, I feel a huge sense of contentment and peacefulness and relaxation that nothing else so far. And I have tried a lot of modalities, but over the last couple of years, this is it for me. I will keep this for the rest.
Wow, this is incredible. So Elke, obviously you're going to be with us next Thursday, the 28th of July. 7:30 is when we start. You're giving us like a practical demonstration stroke talk from 8 o'clock, which is incredible. I'm so excited to have you as part of the program. Is there anything that you wanted to tell us about, anything more, should I say, that you wanted to tell us about what to expect next Thursday, please?
I think I asked you if you could tell me, is it neck, back, shoulders? You know, how can I help most? I don't know who will be in the audience. I'm fairly flexible. If you have one, or even better, 2 tennis balls, or even the yoga tuna balls, that would be great. Then I can give you a few more hints. But if not, we can work on other things. Definitely, I want to make this a bit of a practical session, you know, where I can show you a few things to let go of stress in the back, neck, shoulder area, or wherever you tell me people need it. Probably for the benefit of Zoom, it might be better to the upper body rather than, legs and so on for demonstration purposes. But, I'm flexible.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, there is a survey going around in the Facebook community. I've also put that on LinkedIn. So, if you're listening to this before Thursday, the 28th of July, please do make sure that you complete the survey. And of course, make sure that you're on that live demonstration, because people say, is there a replay? Yeah, you can watch a replay, but being actually on the call, experiencing the energy of the guest contributor, asking the questions that are pertinent to you right there and then, you cannot beat it. So Elke, it's absolutely been amazing to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for your time, energy and wisdom on tonight's conversation. I'm really looking forward to learning from you next week. I haven't got any tennis balls, but I'll be going to get some tennis balls next week so that I can join in properly. And yeah, before I let you go, is there anything that you wanted to tell us in terms of a website or where people can find out more information about what you do at all, please?
Yeah, I do have a website. It's www.elkehausler.com. So that's just my name. Yes, I offer a free discovery call. So if you have any aches, pains, anxiety, any issues like that, I'm always happy to have up to half an hour discovery call and see if I can help and how I can help. And that doesn't cost you anything but your time. So you can book that through the website. I do have Facebook and LinkedIn, but I will admit that I'm not as active on the social media as I may be.
What was the best one though? If somebody was listening to this and saying, oh, well, I want to send you a message on social media, which is the best place where you hang out?
It's probably LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, okay.
Under my name, Elke Hausler.
Okay, fantastic. And I will leave the link for Elke's LinkedIn page underneath this chat. Elke, it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Looking forward to connecting with you next Thursday evening. And if I see you next week at any of the networking sessions, that will be a blessing, of course, as well. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you all soon.
All right, take care.
And you.